Hello and welcome to episode 245 of the Thinking LSAT podcast in Los Angeles. I'm Nathan Fox. With me in Vienna, Virginia is Ben Olson. What's the latest, Ben?
I had a dream last night and you were in it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool. What'd I do?
Well, so there were decent parts of it that were kind of funny, but I'll save the listeners the time so they don't get too bored here. But the bottom line was that we had snuck into the Department of Justice. I am 99% sure, 100% sure this came from my time working there when I was a law student. And in any case, we snuck in and we found some empty desks and pretended to start working there. We didn't know the password, so I called the help desk and I really just pretended like everything was normal and, the calm demeanor. They gave me the password and it was really helpful. And so then we started working. But then this person this law student I'd worked with, her name was Susie. She was there and she was like, "Hey, I don't recognize you. You don't work here." And I was like, "Yeah, I do." And I pulled out this briefcase and it had these old case files in it. I'm like, "This is what I'm working on." And she started looking at it and then she called the client and she's like, "Hi, I just wanted to follow up on your case." And they're like, "Yeah." And I guess in my dream this made sense, but they recognized the number as the DOJ. So when they picked up, they're like, "Hey, Sarah, how can we help you?" And that was the aha moment, they didn't say, "Hey, Ben, how can we help you?" They said, "Hey, Sarah." And she's was on to us. So I was like, "Oh yeah, that's just the other attorney." Anyway, so I walked over to the desk that you were working at and I was like, "We got to roll. They're on to us."
Okay. All right. Let me see. I'm going to do a little Freudian psychoanalysis on you.
Yeah.
Maybe this is because you think the two of us are just basically phonies and frauds, and eventually we're going to get found out for that.
Yeah, maybe so. It's weird though. I felt oddly confident. We could. It's
quite a ruse to just go into the Department of Justice. I imagine you could probably get arrested for that and probably prosecuted.
Yeah, maybe so. In fact, when I worked there a long time ago, we had to go through security, so I don't know how I did that.
Right.
And I don't know what to say.
Today on the show, we're going to talk about the fact that there is apparently no LSAT flex happening overseas.
Okay.
That seems quite odd that they would make that choice.
It does seem odd.
We have a pearls versus turds. There's a bit of advice saying not to guess randomly in the last 5 minutes of each section. I can tell you in advance that that's going to be a turd. We have a question that says, "When do I move to the questions in the games?" Okay. And we have an email saying, "Thank you for convincing me not to go to law school." And then we have a email from our favorite law school dean, Dean David Fegman of UC Hastings, is now suing the city of San Francisco to clean up the area around UC Hastings. And last item, just hot onto the agenda at the last minute, we have a personal statement from Z.
Yeah, A-Dot is typing that into the...
Yes, thank you, A-Dot. We can see you working while we're recording the podcast. Awesome.
Okay.
This is going to air on Monday, May 11th. Upcoming big dates. Wednesday, the 13th of June, is the first of the LSAT Flex scheduling process. That starts at 12 Eastern, allegedly, if they don't have any more snafus like they did last time. If you're registered for the June LSAT Flex, you should be already getting emails from the LSAC. They're going to give you the instructions on how you sign up for one of those slots for your virtually proctored LSAT. Monday, the 18th of May, is the first ever LSAT Flex. They're actually scheduling those tests. Why does it have to be so far in advance? Anyway, Friday, They like make it as complicated as they can. Friday, June 5th is the tentative release for the May LSAT Flex scores. Sunday, June 14th is the week of the June LSAT Flex. That's the testing week. And those scores are going to be out on June 30th. Anyway, you can email the show, help@thinkinglsat.com. Any question, anytime. Send us a draft of your horrible personal statement if you want us to rip it to shreds on the show.
Wait, can I edit that?
Yes.
Send us your best personal statement ever,
Well, yeah.
please. And hopefully that will have some merit. Sorry.
Yeah, do your best, but then also steel yourself for the feedback, because we're not going to pull any punches on it. But yeah, do your best. You'll get the most out of it if you do your best. I think that's about it. What, you ready to dive into these emails?
I'm ready.
All right, you take the first one.
Okay, no LSAT Flex overseas. I just wanted to know your opinion on this. I live overseas and was scheduled to take the LSAT in March. However, it was canceled. I was refunded and not given the option to take the LSAT Flex. I signed up for the LSAT in June, which will more than likely be canceled. I'm doubtful that LSAC will extend the LSAT Flex to overseas test takers. I've emailed LSAC multiple times regarding this issue, and they have not replied. Whoa, that is surprising.
That's weird.
You sure you got the right email address? Despite LSAC's history of not being the most friendly test-taking organization or making organization or administrating organization, recently, after hiring the Director of Consumer Delight, they have been a lot more helpful. That is the right title, right? That is like the legit
It
title.
was, yeah. It was, for at least for a while.
Dear God.
Yeah.
Anyways, so this correspondent says, I am frustrated. As per usual, it seems that anything LSAC does is grossly unorganized. That is true. Should I sign up for the US-based LSAT and then take the LSAT Flex? Ooh. Wait, is there still time to sign up for the June LSAT?
Can't be.
No.
No, the deadline for that was last week or the week before.
Okay. Well, I guess you're talking about signing up for the July LSAT, which may or may not be an LSAT Flex. That said, LSAC is open to that possibility, and I imagine that the patchwork of reopenings that will take place will make it difficult to administer an in-person test. So, yeah, that's an option. I don't know what to say. It's really interesting. I would give them a call. Have you tried calling them?
Yeah.
I don't understand why their email is not working.
Well, here's a little life hack for y'all, maybe millennials. Email is good. I use email, and I tend to respond quickly to email, and so does Ben. But if you want a company to do something, you just get on the phone. You got to call them.
Yeah.
You got to call them. Don't email them multiple times. You're just wasting time. Just pick up the phone and call them. This isn't a friend from college that you have to text first to make sure it's okay to call them. You can go ahead and call LSAC. They're a business. They have a 24-hour phone number. I mean, they're not going to answer it in the middle of the night, but you could call them. You could leave a message. You could call again the next day. You could get a satisfaction from them in 12 hours if you just make a couple phone calls.
Yeah.
That's really the way to get through to the LSAC. They are lawyers as well, so like putting it in writing is sort of like adds risk for them. Weirdly, if you talk to them on the phone, you might get like a different person who might give you a different satisfaction, like different resolution. But in email, I have a feeling that they're going to be like, well, let me send this by the legal department first.
Yeah, they're going to be way more cagey. That's true.
Totally. So just call them. I mean, why are they not doing the LSAT Flex for overseas test takers? Cheating? Something?
Maybe.
Something cheating? Not that people out of the United States are any more or less capable of cheating. I don't understand why.
Yeah, it seems like you're going online. It's a great opportunity to now make it available to anyone, anywhere.
It'd be like when
Maybe
we
it's the
started
time
Demon
zones.
Live, we canceled all our live classes and started doing instruction via the Demon instead. We would be like, oh, you're in Canada though? Oh, no.
Huh. No.
No. This is an American product. Sorry.
But if you'd like to sign up for the class and pretend you're from California, that's fine.
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. It's hard to understand why I don't know. If anybody has any hypotheses about why the LSAT Flex is not being offered to overseas candidates, we would love to hear that speculation. Just email help@thinkinglsat.com.
Yeah.
All right, ready for this Pearls versus Turds?
Ready.
This is the segment of the show where we take a bit of received wisdom about the LSAT from the internet, and we try to tell you whether it's good or bad advice. Normally, it's bad advice. So far, we've been doing this for a while now, Ben. We have 8 pearls, 33 turds, and 15 ties. So the odds are not good for any incoming pearl versus turd candidate. Again, you can send us your best tips, though, help@thinkinglsat.com, and we will discuss on the show. The tip here is, do not guess randomly, ! Because the LSAT does not assess a scoring penalty for incorrect answer choices, you should always guess on every question that you cannot complete during the allotted time. However, because some answer choices are historically more likely to occur than others, you should not guess randomly. If you look at all LSAT answer choices between June 1991 and November 2019 inclusive, then you would typically be best served on the test as a whole by always guessing answer choice D. Do not choose random answer choices. Do not put in a pattern such as A, B, C, D, E. Although guessing answer choice D does not guarantee that you will get the questions correct, statistically speaking, guessing answer choice D gives you a slightly better chance of answering correctly than guessing randomly. Oh my God, Ben. You want to say one of the reasons why this is stupid?
Well, there are many reasons, but I'm actually going to go with a tie on this, not because I agree with it, but because the advice is to choose D. And since I don't care what answer choice someone chooses,
yeah,
I'm like, okay, cool. Like, if you have a reason for doing that, fine. I think your reason is not great, but it doesn't really matter because, hey, pick a letter and choose that one for the remaining answers. That said, I can't give it a pearl because even though I do advise people to pick an answer and then just select that one for the remaining answer choices, I don't want people now thinking that because D is slightly more common in some cases in the past, that if they're down to 2 answer choices, somehow they side with D because of this. That would be horrible. It's like you're
totally
deferring to some like unhelpful reason when in reality you should be digging in and figuring out it.
I'm going to advocate turd for that reason.
Yep.
I'm also going to advocate turd because it crowds your brain with stupid shit that you shouldn't be thinking about.
Sure.
You should be thinking about solving the questions in front of you. And when you run out of time, you randomly guess. I don't care what letter. And it's actually, I mean, do not put in a pattern such as A, B, C, D, E, etc. It makes no difference what you do. Just bubble in any of the 5 bubbles. It makes no difference. Just bubble in a bubble. I always recommend one letter, but if you want to make a Christmas tree, make a Christmas tree. It doesn't, whatever. It doesn't make any difference. So this is...
E might be your best bet because it's closest to the next button, right? Like on the digital test.
Maybe it takes you a fraction of a second. It's just, all of this is, deck chairs on the Titanic, right? It's just not, it doesn't fucking matter. And so people talking about these little tips and tricks and gimmicky bullshit, it just crowds your brain with stuff that is not what you should be thinking about. So I would love for this to go into the turd pile.
I'm fine with that. Fine with that, even though I gave it a tie, because I am worried about the negative side effects of giving like weight to an answer choice.
I think a tie plus a turd vote equals a good turd. You're not getting out of the turd pile that easily. Furthermore, this is based on historical data that doesn't need to stay the same. They could obviously change this if they wanted to. Not only that, but PowerScore did like their stupid analysis of, but if we look at just the last 10 questions on each section, which those are the ones that most people would be guessing on anyway. When we look at just the last 10,
it changes.
Then it changes. Yeah. And by the way, if we look at reading comp, it's a different letter.
Yeah.
And if we look at games, it's a different letter. And it's like, are you fucking kidding me? There's an entire page in your lessons about this. Why are you wasting people's time?
The thing is, if you dissect any sort of large set of data and you don't see a striking difference between answer choices, then how do you not know you're just seeing randomness?
It's
right?
It's pseudoscience, and it's a bullshit gimmicky waste of time. It's not helpful. People need to focus on understanding the questions, not any of this shit.
Here are the extremes, by the way. 21.3% is the highest.
So 1.3% more than random guessing.
Yep.
So
and the lowest is 18.5.
Wait a second.
That's the swing.
So if you randomly guessed on every question on the entire test, you would be expected to improve by one question based on this advice?
Yeah.
1.3 questions? That's if you guessed on the entire test?
Yeah.
So
not the entire section, the entire test.
Right. So this is clearly a turd. It makes no fucking difference. This is a waste of time.
Yeah. My point here is the bands are so narrow that they all hover around 20%.
And it's historical data anyway. It's just such a stupid waste of time. All right, next one.
Thank you.
Thank you for sending in that clear turd. Thank you.
Okay, email subject. When do I move to the questions in games? It's a good question, actually. Yes. Hey, guys. Big respect for all you guys do! ! Thanks, Leslie. I have an issue with timing in games. I spend way too much time on the game and not enough time on the questions. I'm not sure about that. I reread the rules and go over every scenario, and then I fill out the worlds to completion. Maybe I force worlds. I don't know. IDK, by the way. At that point, I know I should jump to the traditional first process of elimination question. Okay. But I don't. What? I get anal, especially on games I think are hard. I reread the rules and comb through my work, and then after wasting time, it seems like I go to the questions. Hey, Leslie, it sounds like you are self-aware of your own issues. So, anyways, but whenever I try to avoid nitpicking my work or not read the rules at least 3 times, I'm not confident and I seem to get the questions wrong. I'm only attempting 3 games right now, so I don't think doing less games would help.
Fewer.
Fewer, by the way, yeah, fewer. When it's countable, it's fewer. When it's not countable, such as water, it's less. Anyways, I ultimately need to go faster, but I'm not sure what to do. With my slow method, I get the first 2 games 100% correct, and then I get nearly all of the third game correct. Sorry for my rant. I'd appreciate any advice. Hey, I'm worried. I'm confused as to why you get nearly all of the third game correct with all this work. I think you need to watch the videos and follow along step by step, and just make sure you're making all the steps and that we're making as we go through these setups. And sometimes the setups are different, but like you're adding steps. It sounds like you don't need. And my guess, if you're getting questions wrong or you're not confident, you're not making steps or taking steps that you should be taking. And I don't know what those are, but you can find them out by just watching a video and pausing whenever you see something that we do that you didn't do and go, wait a sec, Why did they do that? Should I have done that? Or if you do something that we didn't do, I'm not saying that's bad, but maybe ask yourself, was that necessary? Why am I wasting my time doing that if it's not helpful?
Yeah, my hypothesis here is a little different. It seems I bet Leslie is just right on the edge of a breakthrough here. I think half of what I say to people is stop talking about speed. I don't want to hear you say you need to go faster. You need to get these questions right. If you get them right, if you learn how to get them right, then eventually you will go faster. But not if you keep thinking about speed. You know, she just keeps saying, I ultimately need to go faster. Yeah, you ultimately need to go faster. But you don't need to go faster right now. Right now, you need to get these questions right. Yeah. So if you're making worlds, you're probably doing the right thing. Eventually, you'll get good enough at it where when you make worlds, the game will simplify in a way that you just knock out all the questions, no problem. And it doesn't matter how long you took on the worlds because the questions become so easy as a result of making those worlds. Or even if you didn't make worlds, you'll make a couple of inferences about the game. You'll realize that there are some restrictions in the game, the rules combined in such a way that it simplifies things because there's just not that many total possibilities. You know, there's some limitations, and those limitations are your friend. Yeah. That's how you answer the questions. And if you can unlock those inferences before you attempt the questions, then the questions will, without even trying, the questions will get faster and faster. The other thing is improvement on the games tends to happen in, I like to use a earthquake metaphor where, the two plates are like against each other and they're pushing and they're pushing and they're pushing and there's no progress. There's no movement and it builds up and then like bang overnight, it just like all of a sudden moves. Yeah. That's how improvement tends to happen on the logic games. So Leslie, what you could be experiencing is just you're about to have that next breakthrough where you go from 3.5 or 2.5 games and sometimes making mistakes. And all of a sudden it's going to be 3 perfect games or 3.5 games. Yeah. You tend to improve by 5 or 6 points at once on the games, but that means that you go through periods of improving not at all.
Oh, I agree with that. This morning I was stretching and I was able to stretch a lot further than I was before because for like 10 years I've been working out without stretching. So I'm nice. Like a tight, like, I don't know, piece of metal that I can't bend over. They're like, I watch these videos. They're like, oh yeah, you may not be able to do this, but just modify and do, this stretch. It's a little bit easier. I'm like, dude, I'm not even close to that. So I don't know what you're talking about. But today I was like, holy smokes. Like I've been doing it for like a month maybe. And I didn't seem like I was making that much progress. And then all of a sudden today, it's like you're saying this, like all of a sudden it's like, wow, I can stretch a lot further than I could before. And I forget these things, even though we say it over and over again. Like, you just have to keep working at it. That said, I guess I'm a little worried about his second to last sentence or third to last sentence, and then I get nearly all of the third game correct. Is that because you're getting them all right, but just not finishing
That's
the third
how
game?
I read it, yes.
Or is it that you're getting some wrong? Because I don't know. There's this part of me that seems like Leslie's a little helter-skelter here and not super like logical about her process.
Stick with the careful approach, Leslie. Do not worry about speed. Make sure you understand the rules. Make sure you look for connections between the rules. If you can make worlds, make the worlds. Watch the videos, compare the way we're doing it to the way you're doing it. You'll pick up some little tips. You'll realize that there's an art to it. Eventually, you will go faster without even trying to go faster. As you've noticed, when you try to go faster, you make mistakes. And getting questions wrong on the logic games is just a cardinal sin. I mean, that's the right answers are 100% right, and the wrong answers are 100% wrong. And so if you miss a question, you just didn't do your work. Like, you didn't solve the question. You can't miss questions that you attempted on the games. You're not going to be successful if you're missing really anything that you attempt on the games. Yeah. So you got to redevote yourself to accuracy You got to commit to the idea that you're just not going to answer a question until you know that that's the answer. When you do that, if you can train yourself to do that, you will start to realize that it is much easier than you think it is.
Let me say one last thing. She says here, but whenever I try to avoid nitpicking my work or not read the rules at least 3 times, I think when we say, hey, take the cautious approach, you might double down on reading the rules multiple times, and that's probably okay. But I guess what I'm worried about is it sounds to me like you're possibly reading the rules so many times because you're reading them fast.
Yeah.
So ironically, you see that as a slow process. You're like, oh, I'm spending so much time up front on the games. I've read the rules 3 times. It's like, but do you need to read them 3 times because you read them quickly the first time and the second time and the third time, as opposed to just like reading a rule and being like, okay, oh yeah, okay, I get what that's saying, or pausing and thinking about it, how it might affect other rules. So by cautious, I think we also mean cautious in how quickly you go through that setup, not just
read it
how long
slower
it takes you.
Once.
Yeah.
Read it more carefully once. If you have to reread something, then yeah, you have to reread it. But if you're reading all the rules 3 times, you're doing something wrong. There's no reason for that. They're not that complicated. And I think you really need to slow down and make inferences as you go as well. Because if they say X before Y, and then in the very next rule they say Y before Z, well, you can combine that into one rule, X before Y before Z. And the logic games really are that simple. That's all that's happening, is you're looking for people that were mentioned more than once, looking for connections between the rules, and then you'll realize that they interact in ways that restrict the game, making it easier to solve.
You know where I think this might be coming from? Have you seen those people who teach the games in this sort of way where they like number the rules? They're like rule 1, rule 2, rule 3. I think that sort of like encourages people, and I'm not saying Leslie's doing this, but I wonder if she's kind of just picked up this habit of like reading the rules and writing them down, as opposed to thinking about what that rule actually means.
Yes, exactly. That's LSAT dogma. I don't even teach that shit anymore. Like I used to do that. Like I wouldn't number them, but I would like, okay, I'm going to be really anal about like, here's how I notate the first rule. And here's how I notate the second rule.
Yeah.
But lots of times if you had read each rule and then noticed connections between the rules, it's actually going to simplify in a way that you don't need to do that anymore. I'm thinking about Grant, the man who must be on stage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? If you had wasted all your fucking time to be like, well, if any of the women are on stage, let me see, here's that list of women, and let me start
I've
writing
drawn
out.
That before too.
Yeah, and you're drawing it all
If
out
K,
like if
then
this,
if
then
L,
G,
if
if this,
J.
then G, if this, then G, and then it's like, yeah, dummy, but look, there's this other rule that says that at least one of the women always is on stage. So we don't need to write a conditional rule about Grant being on stage. Grant just is on stage. And so, like, if you had done it's like, in that example, if you had written out a numbered list of the rules, it like actively might impede your ability to make the key inference in the game, which is just, yeah, Grant always has to be on stage.
Yeah.
So I give everybody, you're the boss of the test. You do not have to do it the way in order. And you don't have to do it the way you've seen, anybody do it on a video, including me. You can do it however you want to do it. You can solve it however you want to solve it. And lots of times there's a solution that just does not involve a bunch of hieroglyphics, anally writing out all of the rules perfectly. I never do that anymore. I mean, I just try to go for a solution. I normally just am building worlds and baking the rules in. Anything else for Leslie?
Nope.
That's Leslie Nope, by the way. Do you know who that is, Ben?
No.
Leslie Nope.
No. Who's that?
The audience is going to be pulling their hair out right now. Leslie Barbara Knope is a fictional character and the main protagonist of the NBC sitcom Parks and Recreation. She is portrayed by former SNL cast member Amy Poehler. For most
That's
of the
Leslie
show,
Knope.
That's Leslie.
I started
Knope.
that show because people were like, "It's so funny," and I couldn't get through the first episode.
That's how I feel about any show that depicts lawyers. I'm like, people are always like, "Oh, you should check out Suits. It's so great." And then I watch one episode or like 5 minutes of it, and I'm like, "This is just trash." No,
I told you
thank
that we started watching Waco, though, right?
Maybe you mentioned Waco. Yes, you
Oh,
did.
so good.
Yeah.
So good.
Oh.
Yeah, it's over. It was a one season show, but a lot of those are good.
I like shows that
was
have
awesome.
good lawyer stuff in it. I love Better Call Saul. Have you seen Better Call Saul, Ben?
I tried.
Yeah. All right. Fine.
It was like black and white for that first episode. I was like, "What's going on? Is my TV broken?" Like,
Ben.
I don't know.
Did you never watch Breaking Bad?
No, that same thing. I started it, and they're like, he was,
It's
on the
too
side of the
avant-garde
road.
for you. You're too vanilla,
I was like,
Ben.
"What the hell is going on here?"
Yeah. All right. We'll have to get you. I'm trying to. What's the best TV show? Like, what's did you
What's
ever
a show
watch?
I really got into?
Well, let me run some by you. Did you ever watch The Wire? Did you ever watch The Sopranos?
No.
Have you watched Ozark?
Ozark, yeah, I love that. I'm all caught up.
All right. Now we're okay. And you watched all 3 seasons of Ozark?
Oh yeah. Mhm.
Okay. Well,
I think season 3 I watched in like 2 days.
Okay, so we can work with you then. I think you will love Breaking Bad. I think you will love Better Call Saul, and I also think you would love The Wire. They're amazing. The Wire.
I think I'm
was
gonna have to start with
way
The Wire
ahead of
because I
its
tried
time.
the other two.
The Wire. The one thing that's going to bump you on The Wire is that it wasn't made for HD TVs, so you'll have to watch it like letterboxed because it's old. It's really an old show.
I don't even know what that means. Lettered box.
Well,
what does that mean?
They made it for the aspect ratio of the old like square room TVs.
Really?
Yeah, they didn't shoot
okay.
it in like wide format. So,
Huh.
yeah. So, which that's a little bit disconcerting, but it's then a very modern, like the design of the show and the multiple overlapping characters, the same way that Ozark has all the different intertwined storylines, and that you'll definitely find that in The Wire.
Okay. Cool. I'll give it a try.
Should we move along here?
Yeah.
Thank you for convincing me not to go to law school. Oh, I love these. Hello, Ben, Nathan, and the Thinking LSAT team. I am a former Demon Premium subscriber, and I attended your October class in New York. Thank you for giving me... This is M. Thank you for giving me the perspective I needed to make the decision not to go to law school. I still listen to the podcast every week, mainly in hopes of getting book recommendations from Ben, and some of the content in episode 243 encouraged me to write in.
Yeah, I got a book recommendation.
Yeah, go.
Someone just asked about this on our YouTube channel yesterday.
Okay.
Actually, I think they asked a month ago, but I don't stay up on those notifications.
Oh, that's too bad. We should start. We need to start looking at those notifications.
Yeah, I apologize, but they responded right away. So the book that they were asking about was the one that I've mentioned several times on this show about learning. And how people actually learn, and why the demon is based on that model. But anyways, the book is "Make It Stick: The Science of Successful Learning."
Oh yeah, I read that.
And it's by, who is it by? It's by Peter Brown. So someone just asked about that yesterday. There's the actual title. I hope people find that helpful. And sorry, I am excited about books, and I've gotten back into them. I am reading. Well, I actually read multiple books at the same time.
Yep.
And then I just skip around between them as I start to get a little tired of one. I'm interested in another one. But right now I'm reading The Circadian Code. It's all about how all the cells in our body have their own clock. And trying to get them in sync is the goal.
There we go. Book club with Ben. All right. I scored an official 167 on the September LSAT after about 3 months with the demon and have a 3.88 undergraduate GPA. I registered for the October and November LSATs in hopes of getting that sweet 170 plus. However, I withdrew from the October and November LSATs and decided not to pursue law school. Okay. I have empathy for people who feel like they have no marketable skills and that law school is a logical step to career advancement. As a graduate of music school, this was the boat I was in. I heeded your advice and spoke with every lawyer I knew about their job. I felt like I could do the work of a lawyer and was making the right decision. However, I realized that without any real experience working in the law, the only, quote, lawyerly experience I had was the LSAT. I really enjoyed preparing for the LSAT, especially with the demon. It was fun, I was making improvements quickly, and it felt like my career had legs again. However, after the September LSAT, I realized that I was making a mistake. In my mind, I had equated the enjoyment of preparing for the LSAT with the enjoyment of doing actual lawyer shit. I thought I had fallen in love with the field when, in reality, I had fallen in love with the test and the demon. After some careful self-reflection, I concluded that being a lawyer sounds like an awful way to spend my life. The satisfaction of preparing for the test with the demon and the feeling of my career moving forward gave me a false impression of the legal field. I now hear my lawyer friends talk about their days and am grateful to have dodged that bullet.
Wow.
I was talking to lawyer friends last night, Ben. I have in my Dungeons and Dragons game, which we've been playing a lot more now that in COVID times, because it's a very you can play it online pretty easily. So we've been meeting on Zoom and playing Dungeons and Dragons, and 3 of the folks there are lawyers, and the lawyer people work so much more than the non-lawyer people. It's ridiculous, including my buddy Joe, he's a freelance lawyer. He's a contract lawyer. And he's been working from home 80 hours a week, like literally 80 hours a week.
Wow.
He's been avoiding working more than 80 hours a week because they won't let him, because California has some crazy rules. Like if you work 7 days in a row, you have to get double time or whatever. And so he's only working 80 hours a week.
Well, it's a profession that's directly tied to your hourly, right? Like time.
Yeah.
Sometimes people read like about attorneys who make $1,000 an hour, and they're like, "Oh my God, my life would be so amazing if I could make $1,000 an hour." Yeah, it's exciting stuff. I'm not saying it's not, but think about that for a second. To make more money, you have to go put in more time, and that's why attorneys work so much. Yeah, you're getting paid more, but you're also getting like dragged along. Like it's like a carrot that's like, come get me, and you're going and working more. Is it for the best? I don't know.
Yeah,
and there's culture. The culture is just interesting.
It's intense. It's a bunch of real smart people fighting over some high stakes shit, real smart, real hardworking people just fighting. And it's it's not something that I would want to do. So let me continue with this email. I researched other opportunities in fields that were interesting to me. I was always interested in aviation, but never had the resources to become a pilot. However, I have just started paid training to become an air traffic controller. Wow. This field is a lot more exciting to me than being a lawyer, and there's the potential to make big law associate, not partner, big law associate money. And if air traffic doesn't work out, like 50% of law students who don't practice law, at least I get paid throughout the process. Had I not listened to your advice and really reflected on what it means to be a lawyer, I would have made a terrible mistake. Thank you for the work that you all do and the transparency in which you do it. Feel free to read this on the podcast if you need content. Just call me M if you do. And Ben, please give more book recommendations. Best wishes and stay healthy, M. Well, that's a new one. Air traffic control. Okay.
I had no idea you could make big law associate money as an air traffic controller.
That's a lot of money. I mean, first year associates are making $190 now, even though all the layoffs are about to commence. But that's cool. Yeah, whatever. I mean, there's a big world out there, and lawyering is, one of infinite options that you have. So whenever anybody walks away from it, I'm like, I am with you.
Yeah.
Oh boy, you want to read a little bit of this litigation against the city
Yeah.
and county of San Francisco? That was the subject of the email. Litigation against the city and county of San Francisco.
So this is another email from Nathan's favorite dean, David Fagman at UC Hastings. I'll just read this first paragraph. God damn, he writes so long. It says, there are multiple paragraphs, by the way, several, and they're all very long. This is the first one. I write, Dear alumni community, I write to inform you that this morning, UC Hastings, joined by 5 Tenderloin individuals and organizations, filed suit against the city and county of San Francisco in an effort to improve conditions in our neighborhood. Was that one sentence?
Yeah.
It was. The suit was filed in the United States District Court for the Northern District of California. The press release announcing this action is attached. Oh boy. So anyways, I liked your summary. What's your summary of this email?
Well, I'll skim a little bit of his email first, but the complaint identifies 14 separate causes of action arising out of the blighted conditions on our streets. What else did he say? Wait, he specifically gets into some of it. So, by the way, this is the school that he's trying to recruit you to go to. The Tenderloin, always a community of tolerance and compassion, is now blighted, semicolon. Its sidewalks are unsanitary, unsafe, and often impassable. Open-air drug sales and other criminal activity, plus crowds of drug users and sidewalk-blocking tents, pervade and threaten the health and lives of all of the Tenderloin's residents. So that's his email about the neighborhood where he is the dean of the law school. The same neighborhood where he just, like 2 emails ago, was talking about the ribbon cutting on the 14-story building that they just built for I don't know what reason, in that exact spot, in that right there, where he's writing this from. That's where he's probably in his 14-story building right now writing that.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's just, I understand people wanting to clean up the streets around, the shit that they own. I get that. But the Tenderloin being dirty is nothing new. It was disgusting when I went there. People were getting held up like with knives, like someone brandishes a knife and takes your iPhone from you, like on the sidewalk right outside Hastings. Or a million cars getting their windows smashed and stuff stolen. Other people getting, just mugged and harassed. The smell of urine and the sight of feces on the sidewalks and in the streets. And it's just, it's disgusting. It's like, it's super rough. It's the worst, basically, it's the dirtiest neighborhood in San Francisco. There might be more dangerous neighborhoods in San Francisco, but the Tenderloin is it is disgusting.
I'm just surprised by the means. It's interesting that they've decided to pursue this through litigation as opposed to, say, political means or something like that. I guess politics is too hard, or no.
Well, maybe filing the suit is a political step. I don't know. Can you really separate the two?
Yeah.
The point is, he just spent a crazy amount of money from, it's like he charges students so much insane money to go to school in that neighborhood, and then he just built some giant building for what purpose? I really don't know. And I don't know what I'm trying to say, Ben. It's just there's some irony there of, building a gigantic building and filing a suit because it's such a bad spot, while simultaneously trying to entice young people to come spend $150,000 or $250,000 to go to law school there.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a little double. I don't know. How can you say both of those things at the same time? Oh, you should come to Hastings. It's a wonderful, it's a great place to spend 3 years of your life. Just watch out for the blight, though.
Well, it would be interesting to get an email from your school if you've chosen to go here. It says, in the near term, we are urgently seeking the following: the immediate deployment of latrines, washing stations, potable water
for unhoused people on the streets of the Tenderloin. Yes, he says he's filing lawsuit.
He's always asking for things.
Court. Well, this is crazy. Hey, Ben, if you got an offer right now, you're considering starting school at Hastings this September.
Yeah.
The dean of the school just filed a suit in federal court to get the immediate deployment of latrines in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
Like literally right outside Hastings. Not a good place to go to school, y'all. I just can't imagine. Anyway.
Cool.
Okay. Z's personal statement.
Alrighty. Hello, Ben and Nathan. Love the podcast. Thank you for all that you do. I enjoy the brutal honesty when you read out the personal statements on the show. Please read mine on the show if possible so that I can benefit from your wisdom. English is one of my second languages. I would appreciate it if you could redact my identifying information. I would also like to know if I should explain my low LSAT scores on the personal statement. Nope. Don't do that on your personal statement. That's an addendum, if at all. I took my first practice test in 2018 while I was a senior, and I scored a 120! Exclamation point. I feel like it's harder to score a 120 than a 123.
Yeah, you have to actively repel the right answers. I mean, if you don't bubble in the bubbles, you can score 120.
Yeah, that's true. I took my first official LSAT in June 2019 where I scored a 147. I tried again in February of 2020 and scored a 145. I'm retaking in June 2020. The median LSAT score for the school I wish to attend is a 154. Thanks again, Z. Any thoughts on that before we jump into this statement?
I don't know why you're taking the official test multiple times and scoring that low. I would, what are your practice test scores and why are you? I just don't think really people should be sitting for the LSAT if that's going to be their score.
Yeah.
Like your practice test scores wouldn't have lied to you. I mean, I don't. She does now. I suppose it's possible that she was scoring 160 on her practice tests and then scored 147 and 145 on the official, but that's pretty rare. That's a pretty significant underperformance. So it seems to me like you need to prep harder for the LSAT, get yourself more prepared before sitting for the official test. Law schools only care about your highest score, but I really don't like that you've already taken it officially twice.
I don't like it either, and they're low numbers. I would probably cancel your June test and actually, it's already May. Cancel that and just start hitting some higher scores.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to get there by June.
No, I don't think so either. And you're just, I don't know, you're getting your legal career off on the wrong foot here by not getting yourself fully prepared for this exam. Anyway, you ready for the statement?
Okay. Yeah, here it is. When I was a teenager, I had to move to Uganda because Somalia was in the middle of a civil and religious war. The struggle between government and religious extremists who would stop at nothing to gain control of the country. Wait, what? Yeah, it's a fragment. My family and I found refuge in Uganda, where we eventually received an opportunity to travel to the United States as refugees.
Can we just that's the first paragraph. I see some good there. I see some bad there.
Yeah. What do you like?
The first sentence I would say, is above average for the ones that we've read on the show.
It's about you. Mm-hmm.
When I don't like it that it's about when you're a teenager, but it's a very, I had to move to Uganda because Somalia was in the middle of a civil and religious war. Hey, that's a fact. It's a story about your life. You are the subject of the sentence. Mm-hmm. It's short. Like Ben didn't have to stop after he read it. He just went naturally into the second sentence.
It's better than Fagman's first sentence.
Yeah. So I like that part of it, but then the next sentence is not a sentence. It's a fragment. And so then it's just like, well, whoa, you just gave me a complete sentence and now you're giving me an incomplete sentence, and that's not going to cut it.
It's also it's about the extremists and we just don't care. The fact that you left in the middle of a civil and religious war is enough.
Yep.
it was bad.
We get
got
it. We don't need to know. It's war. We got it. Civil war. We got it. We don't need to. We don't need any more about that. We need to know what you did and what you experienced, and then most importantly, like what you're doing now. Like, what is it that what have you been doing?
Yeah.
So, all right. Anyway.
Yep. Continuing. I traveled to the United States in March of 2013 with my then 3-year-old daughter. Okay. It's about you. You have a child. I had a goal in mind, which was to create a better life for both of us.
Yeah. Okay.
I would just cut that.
Yep. We get it. You're moving to the United States. You're escaping civil war. You're coming to the United States. You don't need to say you had a goal in mind.
Yep. I pursued my GED online in less than 6 months to familiarize myself with the American education system, maybe? You left that word out. Went to community college in hopes of becoming a social worker. During this time is when things started to fall apart because I purchased a house from the city auction. It was the beginning of a nightmare and the start of a life-altering realization. Okay, I don't like this because it's about you failing.
Yep.
I don't also like statements about life-altering realizations. I just want to see you succeeding.
Yeah, I don't want to hear about, this is an action you took, and now you're describing it to me as a nightmare. So I would predict that you're going to tell me that you were the victim of some sort of something, you misunderstood something, circumstances, or you were mistreated or something. And it's just, It's like, I'm looking for people who are going to come to my law school and kick ass and win. And you're supposed to be selling yourself as a winner who's going to come be very successful as a result of going to my school. And instead you're telling me about some blunder or some injustice that you were the victim of. And I don't want a victim. Like, I feel for you, especially escaping civil war and all that. But I don't build the prestige of my school by having victims, as the people who graduate and go become lawyers. They're not victims. They're winners. They're killers, So I want to get to the accomplishments part. You got to emphasize your accomplishments, not the trials and tribulations, but get to the victory part.
She continues, when I purchased the house from the city auction, I was working full-time during the day and going to community college full-time in the evenings. All I wanted was to achieve the American dream. Man, cut that.
There's too much about like what you wanted, what you want, and what you wanted. Yeah, we need lots more. Just give me the facts about what happened.
I will say this. Although you have some fragments in here, most of your sentences are clear and easy to follow.
Yeah, it goes back and forth from being like really well written to like, ooh, that sentence is not a sentence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I signed a contract with the city that told me I could not insure the house, secure the house, or even go to the house before they issued the deed to the house. How many times does the word house appear there? The property was set on fire before I got the deed. I contacted the city to resolve the issue, but they issued the deed. I don't know what's going on, but it's not good. I hired a building contractor licensed with the city to salvage the house in hopes of cutting my losses. We signed a contract and the work started. The contractor, on many occasions, was a no-show and hired unprofessional subcontractors. Okay, you made a bad decision to buy a house on auction, and now you've made a bad choice of contractor.
A bad idea to spend any more money on it, and a bad idea specifically who you hired to spend money on it. So what I'm seeing here is a bad decision and a bad decision and a bad decision. It's also like bad circumstances, but it's a series of bad decisions. Why are you telling me about a series of bad decisions that you made?
Yep. We've all made bad decisions, but we don't need to talk about them in our personal statement.
It's not putting your best foot forward. It's so funny that people do the exact opposite, Ben, of what they should be doing.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like they get nervous and they just want to open up and connect and hope that
It's
people
on a first date and you just like immediately blurt out the worst thing about you. You can't help yourself. You just immediately start talking about,
your biggest weakness. Yeah. Okay. The project was later shut down by the city inspectors because it was not up to code. We had another unfortunate event. The house had foundation problems which he did not address, and it looked like it was going to collapse any minute. You're blaming the contractor, but like it's ultimately, the buck stops with you. And you took on this project, you hired the contractor. This is not reflecting well on you.
No.
You're laughing.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like it's it's just a series of disasters, and I don't. and you're supposed to be telling me why you're going to be like a kick-ass attorney, and instead it's like you're a comedy show of just errors. But all right,
this continues.
I know it's funny. Yeah.
After the project was shut down by the city, the contractor picked up his tools and left. Unnecessary details.
Yeah.
He ignored all my attempts to contact him. I asked a friend to contact him to work out a resolution, to which he responded, "She can do whatever she wants. It's not my problem anymore." Okay, we just don't need to know any of this. His statements enraged me because I had invested all that I had into this project. I went to City Hall to request that his building license get revoked because of his incompetence. Okay, now you look revengeful. Look, he might be a jerk. He might be a loser. He might be a poor business person, but you don't want to show this side of you. We both hired attorneys, and the licensing board held a hearing. The board ruled to suspend his building license until he had settled with me. I'm glad that you won. It just still doesn't look good.
It's airing dirty laundry.
Yeah.
I guess this is one of these things where it's like the personal statement. This is an archetype, Ben, for bad personal statement format.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is I'm going to tell you about a legal battle that I was involved in personally. Because look how much of a kick-ass lawyer I'm going to be. Yeah. I went through this.
Now I know so much about the law.
Do not do that. That's a very common bad theme. It makes you look like a problem. It makes you look naive. It does all the exact opposite of everything you think it's doing. So this is she's misguided on her theme here. I think she's a pretty decent writer, actually. So I think she should be fine, but it's just this ain't the story she wants to be telling.
She continues, the contractor was ready to settle in a few months. Interesting. Okay. However, my lawyer would not return calls to the opposing counsel or myself. By the way, you want to use the word me there. I then researched my lawyer. To my horror, oh geez, were we just like sliding down the pit into the pit even further? I discovered that he had temporarily lost his license for using money in escrow for one of his clients, to which he admitted because he was struggling financially.
You know what? No one is reading past this point.
Nope.
They probably didn't get to this point. But at this point, they read that and they go, yep, another one of these. It's just like somebody who has, because of a series of legal scrapes and bad decisions and bad company and just like bad shit. It literally says nightmare and horror in this personal statement.
Yeah. Here we go.
It's fucking amazing. You have made me think about you as a nightmare and a horror. That's what your personal statement has made me think of you. I want to help you. I mean, and I don't actually think those things, but this sounds like a really shitty situation, and it sounds like you made a bunch of bad decisions as part of it. Like this latest thing, what do you mean you researched your lawyer after they stopped returning your calls? Which this is a lawyer who you hired because of a contractor who also ghosted you.
Yeah.
So it's just like bad decision upon bad decision upon bad decision, and making you look like you're failing and you're just flailing around and you're not successful. And so it is like literally perfectly the opposite of what you want to be doing. Anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ben.
No, yeah, she continues, and this is just more examples of what you should not do. I tried to find someone from the Somali community that is who is a practicing attorney to get guidance on how to proceed. However, I could not find a single Somali attorney in the Buffalo area. Okay. That was the day I decided I wanted to go to law school.
Oh, God. Yeah.
No. Yeah.
Law schools perpetuate that, Law schools, they give that advice sometimes. Like, well, you could maybe, you can write about almost anything. We'd love to hear about the moment when you decided to go to law school. But it just always makes you look like a sucker, basically. I mean, maybe that's why they want you to do it, because they want you to look like a sucker. They want to be like, oh, okay, here we go. We got one of these that we can overcharge.
Yeah. This is interesting. She says, I hired another attorney who negotiated a settlement, helped me sell the property, and close on another property. Well, okay, there's some victories for you. From this bad experience, I learned a lot. Don't ever say that. I learned the importance of hiring an ethical lawyer. Researching previous work for people I wanted to hire. And most importantly, wholly understanding binding contracts before signing.
Oh, boy.
See, these are all things that are good to learn, but they're not things you want to advertise that you learned, right? Like, they actually have the opposite effect. They make it sound like, oh, you figured that out? Great. That's par for the course. So
there was an extreme, this is a little nitpicky, but it's an extreme naive thing there that anyone with any legal experience would flag is this, most importantly, wholly understanding binding contracts before signing them. Let me tell you something. It is not possible for you to do that. It's literally not possible, because you don't understand the law around the contract.
Yeah.
Therefore, you don't understand what the contract. If you think that the document lives on its own, you're wrong. There's a whole surrounding body of multiple overlapping, infinite bodies of law surrounding that contract. And so it makes you look like you think you know what you're talking about when you just clearly don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So just don't. It's this, and it goes along with the theme of pretending to be a lawyer now. Like, oh, I've seen what this is all about, and I know that, there's no Somali lawyers in the Buffalo area, so that's when I decided that had to be my role, because I had done this. I went through this one awful litigation situation.
Yeah.
Anyway.
She writes, I continued with my education and graduated with my bachelor's degree in social work with a 3.81 GPA. We know this from your resume. It's a lot better of a topic than everything you've talked about so far, but it's still not a topic for your personal statement. I work as a case manager for people with chronic illnesses, mental health issues that face many other socioeconomic problems. I manage a caseload of about 40 to 50 clients. I maintain monthly contacts with my clients, work on assessments to create care plans.
These are a couple incomplete sentences in there. Just use a comma, using a comma instead of an and.
Yeah. I make sure that they have transportation to attend medical appointments, that they receive their medication, and that they are referred to medical specialists if needed. I ensure that they apply for benefits like food stamps and rental assistance if required. I advocate for my clients daily. Okay. I wouldn't write it this way, but it looks like we're finally getting into stuff where you're doing work. And I like this way better than everything you've said up to this point.
Yep, I agree. But I want to hear like sort of specifics. Maybe you can pick out one or two clients to talk about, but not talk about them. Talk about you doing stuff for them.
Yes, 100%. It's still hard to see exactly what you're doing, even though you are saying a lot of I sentences, which is good, but you're still kind of skimming over the surface. To help the Somali community in Buffalo, I and a few others from the Somali community started a not-for-profit organization. Okay, there's more stuff. Good. The United Somali Alliance of Buffalo, USAB, was born to assist the Somali refugees and immigrants in many ways.
Vague
And a little poetic. Born. USAB helps individuals who cannot read, understand, and respond to their mail. Okay. Many of these families need to complete recertification paperwork for benefits, documentation from schools for their children, and medical paperwork. We also created ESL classes and immigration classes, which I teach every Saturday. I teach my students about the civics test, which is a requirement for citizenship. I teach them how to read and write. I ensure that they understand their application for citizenship. I am proud to say that as a relatively new agency, we have provided the Somali community a central point of contact where they can seek assistance. Okay, these last two paragraphs have provided a lot more winning. They could be better, but I like the information here.
Got to cut the first 2/3 of this statement entirely, or you can talk about the first sentence of "I moved from Somalia." I got out of the civil war. We can that's an important bit of your background that we need to know about. But that whole house situation has to go. You can't keep any of that. Expand on the work you're doing as a case manager. Expand on the work that you're doing at your nonprofit. Talk about the victories, show yourself achieving things. There's a lot to work with, but it's jammed into two paragraphs because there's this whole nightmare scenario up top.
Well, what's crazy about this is that you could take these last two paragraphs that we just read and make them a lot better. But even if you didn't, if you just deleted everything that came before except for your sentence saying where you came from, and then submitted these two paragraphs with that sentence, your chances of admission would skyrocket compared to what you have right now. And you wouldn't have to do any more work. Just delete. Just get rid of the bad stuff.
They're not going to get to any of this stuff here at the bottom because they've already given up on you with all of the too many bad decisions, bad interactions, bad stories, victim type of stuff. Just you're not looking like a lawyer, and so they're not going to get to all this stuff. Which this does, you're making things. You're writing. You're teaching. You're giving people advice.
You started a nonprofit.
Yeah, you're doing a lot. Even things like I maintain monthly contacts with my clients. Just at least now I'm picturing you as a professional person doing things to take care of your business. Yeah. Whether that's government business or nonprofit business or whatever. It's business, you're just taking care of shit. And I do like seeing you taking care of things. That's so much better than all of these hiring the wrong people and being taken advantage of. That's not what we want to. We don't want that part.
Yeah. I applied and got accepted to the Advanced Standing Master's Program for Social Work at UB.
It's on your transcripts and resume. Don't need a sentence for that.
Yep. I hope is a pretty sure recipe for disaster in most personal statements. But anyways, I hope to pursue a dual degree in law and social work to be an asset, especially for the Somali community in Buffalo who do not have a practicing attorney that can communicate in their language and can relate to them on a personal level. When you're referring to people, by the way, you need to use who, not that.
That's your longest sentence and also your worst. You were doing a lot of better writing up top with the short sentences. That one is it's long, it's hard to read, and because it's so long, it's very subject to making lots of mistakes. So I was very pleased with the short sentences at the top, but that one is a stinker.
I would like to fight for social justice for the underrepresented and underserved communities. 30% of law school applicants or something like that say this in their personal statement. 2% actually do. So, although your story is a little bit more believable given the work you've already done.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't know that you need to say it though.
No, it's obvious from what you're doing.
Yeah.
You don't need to say that conclusion because you're doing it. Just talk more about what you do. I have a feeling that she's got the bone. She could write a killer personal statement.
Yeah, I think so.
I think you could knock it out of the park with some of the stuff that but just all you have to do is just spend the entire time focusing on what you're actually doing right now. That's it.
Yep. If accepted into the redacted, I hope to bring both my life and professional experiences by bringing diversity to the school.
Totally broken. Too long. Yeah. Bad sentence.
And I wish to practice law in the Buffalo area. Thank you for your consideration. I would, if you're ever referencing a specific school, it just seems strange. So I wouldn't do that. I mean, I guess she must be applying to a school in Buffalo.
I think she's applying to some regional school.
But this is not necessary. It's obvious. If accepted, that's what you plan to do.
They're here to learn about you. So all you have to do is just say what you're doing now at your job and in your nonprofit. And just expand on all that stuff. And most importantly, expand on all that stuff. Cut the first literally more than half of this. All of the stuff about that house. I don't want to hear a single thing about it. I don't want to hear about any of your personal legal battles. Most importantly, though, I get a better LSAT score.
Yeah. That's what you should be doing first.
Right. Before even, I don't know that this needed to be drafted necessarily, because your LSAT right now is not an LSAT that really justifies going to law school. It's not an LSAT that predicts success in the legal world. So their median is a 154. I think you should be going on a scholarship. So I think you need a 158 or 160. I don't know what exactly the school is, but I think you want to get above that median. You want them to give you a scholarship. If they do, then it's a clear indication that, they think you're going to be successful in law. And if not, then...
Yeah, and you'll go for free. Gosh.
Exactly. Exactly. So take your time with it. Do not rush into anything. We really appreciate you listening and reaching out for help. And, you could totally make this a success story. Like literally the personal statement itself needs to be turned into a success story. And you can be a success story, but the first step for that is definitely just got to work on that LSAT. And, really, if you don't end up with a 155 or higher, I don't think that probably it's the right path.
I agree. Thank you.
Wrap it up there?
Yeah.
Cool. You can join the Thinking LSAT podcast group on Facebook. I don't think Ben or I really check that very much, but Annalisa's still administering that, so you can join us on Facebook if you would like. We are at Thinking LSAT on Instagram and Twitter, social media everywhere. I'm at nfox on Twitter if you want to talk to me. That's a good place to find me. LSATdemon.com is our website. Really just best place to be studying for the LSAT. We do live events every single day of the week on Zoom now. ThinkingLSAT.com if you want to subscribe to the show newsletter, see former episodes, all the podcast stuff. Leave us a review somewhere if you are so inclined. We rely on your support. That was episode 245 of the Thinking LSAT podcast. Thanks all y'all for listening. Nice knowing you. Don't pay for law school.